So we're going to go live now. Hello and good evening. Good evening to everybody out there in the radio world, and good evening to everybody in the podcast world. Tonight we've got Emily Rowland. Hello, Emily. How are you?
I'm great. How are you doing?
Brilliant. So tell us about yourself. I know about you, but you tell us about yourself.
Well, I call myself a recovering perfectionist, and I actually had undiagnosed anxiety for most of my life, and that's why I'm here doing what I am today. Is about 5 years ago, I worked myself into complete exhaustion, and at that next year, I really learned about myself in ways that I never had before. Developed practices of self-care, connected to self-love, connected to the power of the present moment, and all of those things. So I'm excited to talk about that. And then me personally, I'm a wife, a mother of 2 grown kids, and I have a couple of dogs, and I love to dance and laugh and smile and connect. So I'm excited to be here today, talking with you and everyone that's watching, listening. It's great.
Okay. Okay, everybody. So what we're going to do, we're going to we're going to talk to we're going to have a chat. Then around about 10 minutes from the end, you can come in and ask any questions you want. But please make sure, okay, they are good for the program, not any other questions, because that's for another day. Okay, anxiety. We all suffer with anxiety. How bad was your anxiety?
Well, I didn't know until, like I said, I suffered from what I call it a breakdown. I basically completely shut down my body. My brain actually wasn't really working. I wasn't really able to think clearly. And so that took a toll on me emotionally. And really for about 6 months, I wasn't able to get out of bed much. Maybe I would get out of bed to take my dogs out, feed them. That was really what I was doing, was just taking care of my dogs, because I just didn't have the energy to do anything else. I mean, even to the point where I couldn't take the garbage to the street, or I couldn't. And if I did one thing that day, then it was something. And that went on for about 6 months. And in the midst of that, I was realizing that, oh my gosh, there's something going on. So I was going to doctors and trying to figure out different things. And that's when I went to a psychologist and got tested and found out that I had generalized anxiety disorder that was pretty extreme. And I just didn't know, because for most of my life I'd had it. And so I thought it was kind of normal to feel that way until my body just said otherwise, until my body shut down. So, yeah.
The trouble is, so I bet that was difficult because you're married, you got your partner, and you know, and the children and everything. What was that like?
I was scared. It was scary, and my husband was concerned. Like I said, I don't know if I said, but I have 2 kids. One was in college at the time, and then one was home in high school. And so he was there, and he was concerned. And the thing that was a wake-up call for me about that whole thing was that my son started to feel like he really needed to take care of me. And so while I wanted to take care of my son and be a support for him and be there for him, he was now needing to take care of me. And so that was just a wake-up call for me, as far as that, that whole idea of you really can't give from an empty cup. I really did have an empty cup. And not only that, but my cup had actually disintegrated. And so I wasn't able to be there for my son. He needed to be there for me. And with those roles reversing like that, it really was another, just like I said, like a wake-up call to be like, okay, how I was doing things, I need to do them differently. And so, so they were concerned, and it was a stress on everyone because we didn't really know what was happening, why it was happening, and was it going to get better? Was I going to get better? Was I going to be able to function normally? Whatever that means, functioning normally. But yeah. So it was I learned a lot, and it was a very informative time for me and for the family, really.
Okay. So you got so you went to the doctor. The doctor said to you that you got anxiety. So what did you do next?
Well, it was actually a strange thing that happened. So because I was so tired and so depleted of energy and I couldn't do much, I just found myself sitting a lot. And I had been curious about mindfulness. I'd been curious about meditation, and I'd actually explored it somewhat, and actually taken a course about mindfulness. It's called mindfulness-based stress relief, because I was so stressed. So I was sort of exploring these different things, but not to the extent that they were really helping support me in my life. And so when I found myself in this depleted state, I realized, oh my gosh, I have basically all the time in the world now to learn about this mindfulness thing and learn about meditation, because I found myself just sitting and breathing because I really didn't have the energy to do much else. And so I say that I accidentally found out about the present moment, what I call the power and magic of the present moment. I accidentally did because I wasn't able to do anything else. So I guess it was a strange sort of blessing in disguise. The other piece of that was that I had a lab named Mulligan, and he was just this gentle soul. And he was my teacher. I realized that I could learn from him, like how to be in present moment and how to be fully in the now. And so I would go outside and walk with him, and he would just lead the way, and I would just follow him, and I would be in nature, and I would just breathe. And if he sat down, I would sit next to him. And he literally was my teacher for probably about a month. And I felt like I felt like everything that I had thought was right for me to do kind of got taken away from me. And I had to unlearn that and learn these new ways. And the present moment and my dog introduced me to that new way of being, and a new way of seeing life and seeing myself.
Yeah, it's good because when you got pets, they're quick to learn about yourself, isn't they? They're quick. If there's a problem or anything, they're there first, saying, kind of like, you're gonna be okay. I'm here. I'll protect you. Everything to get. And that's good. That's good. I always wanted a lab and a golden retriever, but
they're great dogs. I mean, they are actually. I found out after the fact that one of the best things you can do for anxiety is have an animal, have a dog, have a cat. They really help. They really help with that. They really do.
What I want to touch on is, did you ever feel suicidal?
I wouldn't say so. I would say that I was confused and I was scared. And I didn't know what was going to happen. I didn't know if I was going to feel better. So I did feel hopeless sometimes. I never felt like it crossed over into, I would say, like technically, suicidal thoughts. But I definitely did feel confused and hopeless and sad sometimes, for sure, through that, because I just didn't know why it was happening, if it was going to end, if it was always going to be like this. So I Yeah, not really, but I can know, I can see how somebody in that situation could have crossed into that space.
Yeah, because what I mentioned it for is because when you suffer with depression, sometimes you can really go low, like what I did. I went down, I went low and right into like what you call um, to the bottom. I say like it's like a pit, and I was trying to claw myself out of it and I couldn't. And in the end, I nearly took my own life, and thank God I didn't. But the trouble is, when we get really depressed and get really low, sometimes we get these thoughts, negative thoughts in ourselves, saying that we want to kind of like either end our life or, you know,
Right.
it's just there in the end, isn't it? You know what I mean?
I do, and it makes me think about. I really like this question, and I'm thinking more about it, and I really think for me, my saving grace or where I found relief was in the present moment. So if I was starting to feel really overwhelmed, anxious, and confused, hopeless, those different things, like I had said, then I would sit and I would breathe and I would say to myself, different things. I would say, I am safe. Another thing that I would say is that everything's going to be okay, and just say these things to myself. And that's why I'm doing what I'm doing, because in that moment, I felt what I say is I felt relief. I felt relief from my anxiety, and I actually got diagnosed too with OCD of negative thought patterns. So like So what you're saying is like you have these thoughts and you can't seem to stop them. And so what I would do is present moment, I would breathe, and then I would actually focus on my breath. And I still do it because I still have those tendencies of anxiety and of worrying about future and those types of things. So in present moment, breathing, focusing on breath, and literally I would focus, and I do still focus on inhaling and exhaling, and even what's called box breathing, where you inhale and count for 4 counts, pause and count for 4 counts. And the beauty of breathing exercises and why it's scientifically proven to help with anxiety and all of those different things is because it shifts your focus to your breath. And so you can, and you're counting. So it's almost like it short circuits these negative thought patterns, and it says, okay, we're just going to focus on breath right now. And it's almost like you're distracting and you're stopping this thought pattern. And that's why I created what I call the Be the Moment process. And there's 7 steps, and that's one of the 7 steps is be the breath.
Okay, let's do that. You teach me how to do that.
Sure.
Okay, so what do we need to do?
Oh, well, you really don't need to do anything, and that's one of the things I love about it. Because if you're an anxiety person, then you get overwhelmed. So, yeah. So you sit, but you are. You can close your eyes if that feels good. You can do this walking. You could do this driving. You can do it any time that you're feeling like you need a little relief. But I like to close my eyes and just pause for a moment. And then start to notice what I call your natural breath, your natural breathing rhythm. So you're not changing it at all. You're not inhaling deeply. We'll do that in a minute. Right now, all you're doing is noticing your breath as it flows in and out naturally. And it's very subtle. It's probably very subtle. And just move into a space of being curious. Curious like a child. You can look at this like it's an experiment. So you're wondering about your breath. So how does it feel? If you're in a warm room, maybe as you inhale, you feel warmth, warm air flowing in. If you're in a cool room, maybe you feel the cool air coming in. And see if you can sense the air as it flows through your passageways. Because it's your natural breathing rhythm, it's going to be very subtle. So see if you can notice that. You may notice your chest rising and falling very subtly, very softly, very small movements. And see if you notice anything else about your breath right now. You could think about the quality of the breath. Does it feel smooth? Does it make you feel peaceful? Does it feel effortless? Or does it not? There's no wrong observation here. You're just noticing what is with your breath right now. That's all you're doing. You're just being the observer of your breath.
Wow.
Yeah, and that's just the first layer. That's just, and every single time I would do it, I would see if I could notice just something else, just a little something about it. Like when I focus on my breath, how does it make me feel right now? I was feeling this way, and now I'm feeling that way. And there's just, that's, like I said, that's just the natural breath. That's not doing deeper breaths. That's not doing square breathing. And I mean, there's so many.
Yeah.
The thing that I love about breath is that it's always with you, and you can do it anytime, no matter where you are. You don't have to close your eyes. You could be driving, you could be anywhere, and you can just be like, whew, you know?
What I got was, it was a sense of like calmness, and also here it was like light, and you can actually, because you sometimes we ordinarily gasp for air, but it's like a light kind of breathing. Do you get me? It's like
Yeah.
something just there, just on top of your chest, you know.
Yeah, that's beautiful. And I mean, you're right. I mean, that's for me, that's what it is it's just being present with just the breath, and how that makes you, that changes you physiologically, that calms down your nervous system. It does all these different things, like chemically to your brain, and all these things that I'm just, I experienced it accidentally, and now I'm learning about it too. Like, so it's really exciting. And so that's what my process is all about, is these different building blocks that I went through to access the relief of the present moment. That was the main reason why I was doing all of it, was to just find relief from my anxiety. And yeah, so that was it. And then
have you recovered now? Have you recovered from your anxiety?
Yeah. I mean, for sure. I do practice what I am sharing with everyone every day. I'm not advocating this, but I am off of my anxiety medication. I just don't experience it anymore. I like to say that I have tendencies sometimes, and I definitely can feel when certain things, but now I have the tools, and I can, just take a deep breath. And I mean, and sometimes that doesn't work so much. I have to use other tools, but I always start with breath. I talk about smiling a lot. I talk about laughing a lot, and dancing, and just being out in nature, just things that we can do that short circuit these patterns that we have, that can give you relief. And the cool thing about it, all of these things are free and accessible to us all the time. We just have to decide that we would rather feel good, and so we would do this thing rather than continuing to suffer.
How do you cope with your children then? So if they play up or anything like that, how do you do it? So do your breathing exercises come in and go, a good job of breathe, get out of my sight?
Well, so they're grown and gone now. But back in the day, what's beautiful too, I will say about my kids is as I have learned these self-care practices and they've watched me, my life has literally been transformed. I now say that I'm living the life of my dreams. And that is why I actually wrote a book last year called Foundation. And it is how to take these practices and establish them into an easy and effortless way of life, a way of being, a consistent way of being that allowed me to be liberated from the anxiety and that kind of thing, and now be putting me into a space where I can say that I'm living the life of my dreams. And that's why I'm doing what I'm doing, because I really know that this can work. It worked for me and it's worked for other people that I've shared it with. So I wrote my book. And why I bring that up is to answer your question, is my kids, now they're older, they've watched how these practices have transformed me. Because my son went from feeling like he needed to take care of me 5 years ago to now being like, what, Mom, what are you doing now? You wrote a book and you're doing all this stuff and I'm thriving. And so he and my oldest are starting to implement some of these self-care practices and start to really value their mental health, their physical health above.
Let's talk about your book, because that's what I want to bring. That's what I wanted to bring up.
Sure.
In your book, it's about, foundation. Firstly, where did you get the title for your book to?
Well, it kind of came to me like the rest of my book did. When I was in a space of meditation, I would get these inspirations. And what I wanted my book to be was a roadmap, a blueprint for how to build a life. And it actually comes from an experience that I had, and I talk about it in the book. This was probably when I was about 26. So it's quite a long time ago, like about 25 years ago. But it was so impactful to me. I was living a life. I came to a point in my life where I had to make a decision. And just like what happened 5 years ago, where I felt like everything kind of got wiped clean and I had to restart, this is what happened to me when I was 26. And I actually saw this vision of my life, and my life was this building and it was crumbling down. My husband came home one day from work and I said, I'm not happy. And he said, and I said, it's not you, it's not the kids. There's something I missed. There's something, there's a piece, there's something that I can't put my finger on. And what had happened that day was I had basically been honest and said, there's something isn't right. I'm feeling off. I'm not feeling satisfied. I didn't know what it was. And I saw this building that was made out of bricks crumble. It crumbled down and there was all this dust and everything. And as the dust cleared, there was one brick left. It was a pretty big brick. And I recognized it as like what would be called like a cornerstone that the house of my life had been built on. And that was all that was left. And I heard someone say to me, this is the foundation. The foundation is love. That's all you need. That's all you've ever needed. And so from that point, as I was living my life, I measured everything against what I considered being in a space of love for myself, love for others. And so it came from that. And then 5 years ago, when I had this major reset again, which was similar in a lot of ways, I knew that the foundation was love and that was going to be my book. And then that is what my book is about, is connecting to love and understanding what it is for ourselves and getting into a space where we can start to access love for ourselves and understand our true self-worth and that type of thing. And my book actually guides the reader or the listener, because it's also an audiobook, through a process that leads them through it organically in their own way. Because I don't want to say to someone, okay, this is what I did, you have to do exactly this thing, because I don't know what your journey is and your story and the things that you struggle with. So my book is there, like I said, like a roadmap, a path, a guide to lead you to these things for yourself. So it has my story, it has some tools and ideas, and then it also has mindfulness exercises that I lead you through that help you to create that space, just like we did earlier with the breathing, the natural breathing. I do that for love. I do that for worthiness. I do that for our thoughts, our emotions, like all these different things that I see as the building blocks that we can learn to understand so that we can create the foundation to build the life that we want to have, the life that we are here to live. So that's a great question, but that's why I call the book Foundation.
Do you have a belief? Do you believe in God?
So that's an interesting question. I actually talk about that in the book, and that's actually a great question. I grew up in more of a traditional Christian, with traditional Christian beliefs, and that actually shifted for me when I was 26, when I was telling you that story, when the house crumbled down, and I was confused about different things I was seeing and different beliefs that there were, as it related to religion. And so when the building crumbled down and all that was left was love, I made a pact with love. I made a pact with whatever it was that was speaking to me, saying that love was all there is. That was me and love. And
yeah,
so,
but you know, I'm a Christian, and
yeah,
you know, God is love. You know, so you
yes,
know,
exactly.
yeah. So you know, but what I'm trying to say is, like, with the cornerstone, you know, that's a part. You know, in the Bible it says about the cornerstone and everything
Exactly.
else.
So that is definitely my background, and I love how you picked up on that. And what happened for me was I just needed to focus on the love piece.
Yeah.
And that aspect of God, and then I trusted that everything else would fall into place for me. And that was, like I said, 25 years ago, and it has proven to be a good path for me.
Yeah, definitely. So now you got a manager. You know, you're doing different things. So what you've been up to lately, then? What are you actually doing now?
Well, what I am doing now is, well, as you know, I wrote my book. So we are, Taylor and I, shout out to Taylor. She's awesome. She's here today with me. Are just sharing the message with the world, getting the word out there that that there is a possibility, there is a hope that you can connect to this space, the space of love, the space of present moment, that it's accessible and real, and you can connect to it. And so that's really what I've been doing, because since last year, I just can't stop talking about it and thinking about it. So I'm active on social media, and I'm active on Clubhouse, which has been super fun. So yeah, I'm just in a space of connecting with people, because I love to do that, and sharing my message however I can. Doing things like this. So
Yeah.
I really appreciate the time to
No,
do.
that's okay. Actually, I've got some people who want to ask questions now.
Sure.
Glenn wants to know, with your anxiety, did you say that you went off all your medication, all your tablets and everything? How did you feel when that happened?
When I went off my medication?
Yeah.
Well, first of all, I'll say that I'm not advocating that anyone gets off their medication. You know, work with your your psychologist and your doctor and all those things. I honestly took my medication for quite a while after I felt like I didn't need it anymore. I started to notice that I wasn't having the same feelings. And it was quite a long time. And then I worked with my doctor and we weaned off it gradually. So I took it for a while, even when I felt like maybe I didn't need it, because I just felt like I needed the security, the safety net. I just needed to know that I had that support for my medication. So I just wanted to reiterate that I'm not saying
guys,
that you should or anything like that, but that was my experience.
Guys, just to remind you, just to warning, with medication, please just don't come off medication just like that.
No.
You know, you need, if you're on medication, you need to wean yourself off gradually.
With the doctor.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And get some doctor's advice before you do anything like that. Mandy wants to know, good story, well done. Steve, can you get her back again as a regular guest of yours? We do have people on speaking about this, but the person who used to speak about all this actually left. So we will. I will speak to Taylor and see if we can get her back on again. Okay.
That'd be great.
Brilliant. Thank you. Russell wants to know how long did it take for your book to write?
Oh, great question. So it was about 6 months. And what was happening for me is, as I was in this space of meditation, I would come out of meditation and I would get these big blocks of thought or information, and I would just write. And sometimes I would wake up at 3 or 4 or 5 in the morning and I would just write. And so, and I told myself that I would only write if I was enjoying it, if it was fun, if I was felt like I was in a really great space. And so, it took about 6 months. It was a lot of
fun. Claire wants to know, hi Steve, brilliant, very good show tonight. You've got 3 good shows tonight. Well done. Would it be possible if you have her back again? We will look into it. We will definitely. Louise wants to know, well done. Getting over what you've got. It's very tough these days with anxiety. I've had anxiety for a long time. And I'm still getting treatment for it. Claudia from Pennsylvania says, hi, very good story, Steve. Well done to your guest. Please have a gosh, right? Okay. I'm getting loads of messages here.
I can tell, yeah.
yeah, I'm getting loads. We got around we got about 14,000 on at the moment. So.
Oh wow! Hi.
Yeah, so I'm trying to go through the text. What else is it? What can we do? Could you please say hi, Emily? Can you please say hi to Glennis? She's from New York.
Glennis?
Yeah.
Hi, Glennis. I'm in New York too. Nice to meet you.
And Russell from Washington, he says, well done, Emily. Great story. Hopefully see you again on Steve's show. Well done. We will try, honestly. Bert wants to know from Scotland, where can I buy your book?
Ooh, great question. Yep. So my website is emilyrawlings.com. It's EMILIE Rawlings, RAWLINGS.com. And you can pre-register there for it. And the great thing about doing that is when it's released, which is June 25th, you will get the book and you'll also get the companion meditation album for free. as a gift for pre-registering. They're designed to be used together.
Yeah. I'll probably get one of them. Lisa wants to know. How long have you been married, and how did your husband cope with your anxiety?
Oh, great question. Well, I married my high school sweetheart, so we will be married 29 years in a couple months.
Gosh.
Yeah. It's been interesting, like growing up with someone. We started dating when we were 16, so there's been a lot. It's been a lot, and he was pretty concerned and pretty scared when it was happening. He was supportive, and he tried to help me, but at the same time, I think the most important thing for me that he did was he gave me space, and he wasn't trying to fix me. He was just allowing me to figure out what was going on.
Yeah, we need to do our own healing.
Better. What?
We need to do our own healing, yeah.
Yeah, and he really allowed that. Like, I knew he was concerned, and he was definitely there. He was present, but we didn't know why it was happening, and so he just really allowed that. So you're right, Steve. He allowed me that space and that grace, and that was very helpful for me.
Tell about your sweetheart, your school sweetheart. I met my wife now at school. We went to school, but I went out with a friend, and she went out with my friend. But we were friends, but we never used to kind of like. I used to like wind her up about her white bag and everything, and
of course,
yeah, she's got this white bag, and she used to whack me with it.
Of course, love it.
And what happened was we kind of like, I went off and got married to somebody else, and she had a relationship and children and stuff. And at a school reunion, when I was doing a school reunion, and she contacted me out of the blue, and she said, "Can I have some tickets, please?" And between me and the gatepost, I kind of like had a crush on her all those years.
I love it.
And next minute, I kept on bugging her, saying, let's go out, and let's meet up, and all that. And she kept on saying no and everything. And in the end, we got together, and we've been married now for around we come up to about 7 years being married now.
Oh, that's awesome.
Yeah, and we got together at school reunion, so.
Oh, I'm such a romantic, and I love stories like that. And I've actually heard of that happening, where there's a connection when you're younger, and then you come back together. I love that. That's really cool.
Yeah, it's all right. But I think she knows. I think between me and you, I think she regrets it at the moment. So. But she don't. I love her to bits.
Oh, that's.
I'll tell you what. Thank you so much for coming on my program tonight and kind of like talking about what you do, because this is about us. See, why we call Crossroads is because, of course I'm a Christian, but I get a lot of people on here talk about mental health and music and all sorts of things. And all we're trying to do is we're trying to help people, going through anxiety or mental health or whatever. And that's what we're trying to. And people like you, when you come on, you're helping a lot of people. See.
Yeah.
Believe it or not. So thank you so much from the bottom of my heart for coming on.
Thank you. It was great to meet you and to talk with you. I really appreciated your time. This was a lot of fun.
Anytime, and hopefully, Taylor will let you back on again. And
yeah, we'll see what we can do.
Yeah, please, we'd love you to come back, because we can talk further then about what you've been up to and all that lot. But so, thank you. We really enjoyed it, and we loved you having you on.
Thanks. It was great to be here.
Okay, and if you could kindly, before I go, if you could go onto my Crossroads Podcast UK page, and go into reviews and leave me like a nice review, I'll be grateful for that too.
Sure.
Okay.
Yeah. Yeah, and pre-register for my book, emilyrawlings.com.
Well, you do that for me, and I'll pre-register for your book.
Exactly. Let's do it.
Is that deal?
It's a deal.
And you promise to come back again, yeah?
Well, yeah, we'll see. I'd like to. This was great.
Right, I'll tell Taylor. Taylor, I know you're listening. We want her back again. As you've got around about 14,000 people beyond your back. Right, okay, guys. Thank you very much. Bye-bye, Emily. Thank you very much. Thank you. Okay, guys, I'm going to be back by tomorrow now, and that's it for us now. In the meantime, good night, God bless, and see you later.